Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about focus, but maybe not in the way you think. What if I told you the secret to superhuman focus isn't some new app or fancy technique? What if it's just about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, with being bored?
Okay, so let's paint a picture here. You've seen these two people. Maybe you are one of these people. First, you've got the focus machine. They sit down, they lock in, and boom, a week's worth of work is done in like 4 hours. Then there's the other person. 10 hours go by, and it feels like they've just been wading through brain fog, jumping between emails, tasks, grabbing water. You know the drill. Exhausted, but with nothing to show for it.
So what gives? Is one person just born with a better brain? Are they just smarter? Well, according to the stuff we're digging into today, the answer is a big, fat no. It's not about the hardware you were born with. It's about a habit, a really simple one that you can train.
And this, right here, is the absolute core of it. Your lack of focus isn't a random thing that happens to you. It happens because you've trained your brain to be distracted. Think about it. Every time things get a little tough or boring and you reach for your phone, you're doing another rep. You're literally training your brain to quit.
But hey, here's the good news. If you can train your brain to be distracted, you can absolutely train it to focus. And the best part? It's not about adding a bunch of complicated new systems. It's actually about stopping a few key things that are messing you up. So let's get into what those are.
Okay, so the game plan is simple. We're going to break 4 bad habits. First, we'll stop negotiating with distractions. Then we'll stop being so reactively available. Third, and this is the big one, we'll stop running away when things get hard. And finally, we'll stop obsessing over the finish line. Let's dive into that first one. All right, habit number 1, stop negotiating with distractions. You know that feeling, right? That little itch to just check your phone? What do we usually do? We try to fight it. We use willpower. No, I will not look. But here's the thing, that's a trap. The more you fight it, the more attention you give it, and the more energy it drains from you. So the big shift here is to stop fighting. Focus isn't about brute force, it's about non-resistance. The next time you feel that pull, just notice it and tell yourself, nope, not negotiating with that, and then just turn back to what you were doing. It's amazing how fast that urge just disappears when you stop giving it attention. Okay, on to habit number 2. Stop being reactively available. This is a big one in our always-on world. We've basically trained our brains to be like little guard dogs, just waiting for the next ping, the next email, the next notification. We're constantly on alert, waiting to react. I love this analogy. Are you a waiter or a surgeon? The waiter runs around reacting to every single request, always interrupted, always busy, but not really building anything. The surgeon, on the other hand, is focused on one critical thing. The whole world has to wait, because what they're doing is important. Which one do you want to be? So how do you become the surgeon? You have to be a little ruthless about it. Close that email tab. I'm serious. Close your messaging apps. And your phone? Don't just turn it over, get it out of the room. Physically put it somewhere else. This tells your brain, okay, for this block of time, this is the only thing that matters. All right, this next part is maybe the most important idea in this entire explainer. It's all about what happens when the work itself is the problem. You know, when it gets difficult or confusing or just really, really boring. The second things get hard, what's our instinct? We bail. We reach for a distraction. We tell ourselves, we'll just check one quick thing. We do anything to escape that feeling of boredom or struggle. But every time we do that, we're running away right before the breakthrough. And that breakthrough is the flow state. You know that amazing zone where you're so immersed in what you're doing that time just disappears. It feels effortless. But here's the secret. You can't get to the effortless part without first pushing through the hard part. Flow is literally hiding on the other side of boredom. There's this great little story in the source material about a guy who had to do this super boring monthly report. He used to put it off for days, but then he tried something new. He just sat there and felt the boredom. He didn't run from it. And after about 5 minutes, like magic, it just lifted. He then cranked out the whole report in 90 minutes. So think of it like this. Your brain's resistance is like a rocket trying to break through the atmosphere. It's shaky, it's loud, it's the hardest part of the whole trip. So many of us hit that turbulence and we just eject. We quit right before we get to the quiet, smooth glide of outer space. The trick is, don't eject. Okay, last habit. And this one might be the most powerful of them all. You have to stop obsessing over the finish line. When all you can think about is, I just want this to be over, you're telling your brain that what you're doing right now is awful. That creates anxiety, and you can't focus when you're anxious. Instead of thinking, I have to finish this whole thing by Friday, try thinking, I'm just going to write one good sentence. That's it. That's the whole task. I absolutely love this quote. You don't owe the future your anxiety. You owe the present your attention. Just focus on the very next step. The process itself becomes the goal. And when you do that, your brain gets interested, and focus just happens. You don't have to force it. So when you look at all four of these things, it's really about one big idea. It's like you're removing malware from your brain. You're not installing new software. You're just getting rid of the junk that's slowing everything down.
So, what's the first step? Simple. Don't try to do all of this at once. That's just setting yourself up to fail. Just pick one. Just one.
And here's how you pick. Which of those four habits made you kind of wince a little? Which one made you think, ooh, I don't know about that one? Yeah, that one. That's your starting point. That's where the real growth is hiding. So as we wrap this up, I've got a challenge for you. Don't just click away into the next thing. Seriously, right now, pick your one habit, and for the next 20 minutes, just commit to it. Put your phone in another room. Sit with that boring task. Tell your brain you're not negotiating. Just prove to yourself for 20 minutes that you can do it. Because once you do it once, you'll know you can do it anytime you want.
You ever look at some people and wonder how they do it? How they can just sit down, lock in for a few hours, and get more done than most people do in a week? Meanwhile, you're struggling all day long and feel like you've made zero progress. It's a really frustrating puzzle, right? Well, in this explainer, we are going to break down exactly how you can flip that switch, how you can go from that distracted state to one of intense surgical focus. Okay, let's get into it.
Just look at these two profiles for a second. On the one hand, you've got the Focus Pro. They put in 4 hours of deep work and bam, they're ahead of the game. On the other hand, you have the distracted worker. 10 hours of just constant struggle, bouncing between tabs, checking their phone, and at the end of the day, they have absolutely nothing to show for it. Be honest with yourself. Which one feels a little too familiar?
And hey, if you identified with that second person, you are so not alone. The person whose work inspired this explainer felt exactly the same way. He'd start his days with these huge, ambitious goals, and they'd just fizzle out within minutes. He tried all the apps, the planners, the productivity hacks, the whole 9 yards, and nothing worked. He just felt like it was a personal failure, like his brain was fundamentally broken. But this is the big revelation. A lack of focus is not a character flaw. It's not because you're lazy or stupid. It is a trained response. You have, completely by accident, taught your own brain to constantly seek out distraction. And the best part? Anything that has been trained can be retrained, and it can happen way faster than you think. So how do we actually do it? Well, we're going to start by stopping 4 key behaviors, and we'll go from the easiest one to implement all the way to the most powerful. So first up, you have to stop negotiating with the urge to be distracted. Now, what's so interesting about this is that it's the exact opposite of what we're usually told. The common advice is to use willpower, right? To just grit your teeth and resist that urge. But that is a losing battle. Why? Because when you fight the distraction, you're still giving it your attention. You're engaging with it. And your brain, it kind of loves that drama, that engagement. So instead of fighting it, you just refuse to play the game. The next time that urge to check your phone or open a new tab pops into your head, you just notice it and you say to yourself, I am not negotiating with that. That's it. You don't get mad, you don't fight it, you just dismiss it. It's like background noise, like a car driving down the street. It loses all its power almost instantly. Okay, let's move on to the second behavior to stop. And this is where things get really interesting. This one is a fundamental mindset shift that changed absolutely everything for the author. It's all about moving from being a reactive waiter to a proactive surgeon. So when it comes to your attention, I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you a waiter or are you a surgeon? Seriously, think about it. Your answer to this reveals pretty much everything about your ability to focus. Let's really break this down. The waiter is always in reactive mode, reacting to emails, to Slack pings, to text messages. Their attention is sliced up into 100 tiny little pieces. They feel really busy, but they're not actually being productive. The surgeon, on the other hand, well, they're in an operating room. They are proactive. They have one single, critical task, and the entire world can wait. They aren't busy. They are productive. So how do you make that switch? It's actually a lot simpler than you think. When it's time for you to do deep work, you have to close the portals to the outside world. That means shutting down your email tab, closing Slack. And don't just put your phone face down. Get up and put it in another room entirely. Every time you do this, you're teaching your brain a powerful new lesson. My focus is sacred, and this work right here, it matters more than all that random noise out there.
All right, on to habit number 3. This one is absolutely critical because it tackles the exact moment that most of us lose our focus. You have to stop running away the second things get difficult or uncomfortable.
This is such a powerful idea. We tend to think that boredom or frustration or confusion, that those are signals to stop and take a break. So we reach for our phone or some other distraction to escape that uncomfortable feeling. But that feeling isn't a stop sign. It's the gateway. That amazing state of deep, effortless focus we call flow is waiting for you just on the other side of that initial friction. Think about it like this. Your brain trying to get into a state of focus is like a rocket trying to leave Earth's atmosphere. At the beginning, there's this intense resistance, right? A lot of shaking and friction. And most people, the second they feel that, they hit the eject button. They go open YouTube or decide now is the perfect time to clean the kitchen. But you have to push through that initial resistance to get to the smooth, quiet weightlessness of space, or, in our case, flow. And that brings us to the final and I think the most powerful behavior that you need to stop. This is all about changing your entire relationship with the work itself. You have to stop obsessing over being done. See, here's the thing. When your mind is constantly on the finish line, thinking about lunch or the weekend or just how good it's going to feel to be finished, you're telling your brain that this present moment is bad. And what does your brain do when something feels bad? It tries to escape it. The antidote is to find the reward in the process itself. The work becomes the reward, not just some annoying hurdle you have to get over. So how do you do this in a practical way? You shrink your focus. You shrink your world. So instead of stressing about the 1,000 words you have to write, your only job is to write one good sentence. Instead of worrying about the whole complicated project, your job is just to solve this one little part of the code. That's it. When you make the present moment interesting, your brain naturally gets interested too.
So let's recap our toolkit here. These are the 4 behaviors to stop. Number 1, stop negotiating with distractions. Number 2, stop being a reactive waiter and start being a proactive surgeon. 3, stop running away from boredom and discomfort. And number 4, stop obsessing over the finish line and find the reward in the process.
The biggest thing I want you to take away from all this is that you're not trying to add some new skill. You are simply removing old, bad habits. Your brain is already a supercomputer, capable of incredible things. These 4 behaviors are like malware that's slowing it down. Once you remove them, its natural speed and power will just show up on its own. Okay, this is the moment of truth. This explainer is about to end. And most people will nod their head, feel motivated for a second, and then they'll immediately click on the next video, going right back to their old habits. Please don't be like most people. So here's my challenge to you right now. The moment this is over, don't look at the comments, don't click on another recommendation, close this tab, put your phone in another room, and just do 20 minutes of focused, deep work on whatever your most important task is. Prove to yourself just this once that you can do it. Because once you prove it to yourself, you'll know you can do it forever. Go on. Start now.
You know how some people can just sit down and boom, they're instantly locked into their work. Meanwhile, the rest of us can spend hours just feeling busy but not really getting anything done. It's so frustrating, right? You start your day with these big plans, and next thing you know, you're just checking emails, getting another glass of water, staring at a blank screen with a head full of fog. If that sounds anything like you, well, you are in exactly the right place. Okay, so let's jump right in with this really powerful analogy. First, I want you to picture a surgeon in the middle of an operation. They are doing one single critical task. Everything else, emails, phone calls, people asking questions from the hallway, all of that is completely shut out. They are proactive. Now picture a waiter in a super busy restaurant. They are just a whirlwind of reactivity, right? They're constantly being pulled by new orders, empty glasses, requests for the check. They're working incredibly hard for sure, but their focus is just shattered into a million pieces. So, which one are you during your workday? Really, are you the surgeon, totally in command of your attention? Or are you the waiter, getting pulled in a dozen different directions at once, always busy but never feeling truly productive? If we're being honest with ourselves, a lot of us spend our days acting like that waiter. But here's the good news. You can absolutely choose to be the surgeon. And we're about to dig into exactly how. So why? Why do so many of us operate like the waiter instead of the surgeon? It's really tempting to think it's some kind of personal flaw, right? That maybe we're just lazy or our brains are somehow broken. But the truth is actually way simpler and honestly, a lot more empowering. It is not a moral failing. It's just a trained habit. And this right here, this is the core idea of this whole thing. You weren't born distracted. You have accidentally been training your brain to look for interruptions. See, every single time you switch tabs the second you get bored or check your phone at the first little buzz, you're just reinforcing that training. But the best part is, what is learned can be unlearned. The moment you stop training for distraction, your brain naturally defaults right back to focus. All right, so how do we start unlearning this habit? Well, it all begins with the single most important move, the one this whole explainer is named after. We have to stop negotiating with our distractions. This is all about the incredible power of just not resisting. Okay, so here's what most of us do. An urge hits, check Instagram, and we immediately start fighting it with willpower. We grit our teeth and we tell ourselves, don't look, don't look. But here's the trap. By fighting it, you are still giving that urge all of your attention. You're engaging with it. And that little negotiation just drains your mental energy and actually makes the distraction even stronger. And eventually, you cave. You're fighting a battle you are literally guaranteed to lose. So this is where we make the pivot. Instead of fighting, we just refuse to even engage. The very next time that urge to get distracted pops into your head, you deploy a simple, really powerful mantra. You just tell yourself, I am not negotiating. And the process itself is brilliantly simple. Step 1, you feel that urge to check your phone. You just notice it, you acknowledge it without any judgment. Step 2, you calmly state the mantra, I am not negotiating. And step 3, you immediately return to your work. That's it, no guilt, no big internal battle. You just dismiss it like a car driving by. The urge just vanishes in seconds because you've refused to play its game. This brings us to the next critical step. To really support this non-negotiation policy, we have to create an environment that's built for focus. And that means we have to stop being reactively, instantly available to everyone and everything. It's time to protect your most valuable asset. And this means taking real, concrete actions. When you sit down to do focused work, close your email tab, close Slack or Teams, and don't just put your phone face down on the desk, put it in another room. This sends such a powerful signal to your brain that your work matters more than all the noise. And then you create specific windows to check messages, like say at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. You're training other people that you're not instantly available, but more importantly, you're training your own brain to stop looking for those interruptions. And let's be crystal clear, this is so critical because your attention is your most precious resource. When you let every single ping and notification steal a little piece of it, you're basically just throwing that value away. By creating these protected blocks of time, you're treating your attention with the respect it actually deserves. Okay, so our next point, it might be the most counterintuitive one of all. We have to stop running away from boredom. Most of us think that feeling bored or that feeling of difficulty is a sign to stop, but it's actually the complete opposite. It's the price of admission. It is the gateway to the flow state. Just think about it. The second the work gets hard or confusing, or maybe just a little bit boring, what's the first impulse? Reach for a distraction. That right there, that is the exact moment most people fail. They quit right before the breakthrough. So instead, when that feeling of discomfort hits, you have to just stay with it. Don't switch tasks. Don't open a new tab. Just sit with that feeling for a sec. This visualizes it perfectly. Your brain fights that transition into deep focus, kind of like a rocket straining against gravity. It's hard. And most people, they feel that initial friction, and as you can see in that first bar, they just hit the eject button by grabbing a distraction. But if you can just push through that initial discomfort, you break through the atmosphere into that effortless glide of the flow state. You just have to stay in the chair. And this brings us to our final, and maybe the most powerful mindset shift of them all. To truly master focus, we have to stop rushing the process. We have to stop obsessing over the finish line and start treating the work itself as the reward. When your brain is totally fixated on some huge outcome like this, I have to write 1,000 words, or I've got to finish this whole project by Friday, it just creates anxiety. Your mind is way off in the future, thinking about how good it's going to feel when you're finally done. And that sends a signal that the current moment is bad, that it's something to escape from. And anxiety is the ultimate focus killer. The solution is to radically shift your goal right back to the present moment. So instead of 1,000 words, your only job is this. I am going to write one good sentence. That's it. It's so small, it's manageable, and it keeps you completely present. When you treat the work itself as something interesting, your brain gets interested. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Your focus isn't something you force. It's something you allow to happen by being fully present. So stop paying the future with today's anxiety. Pay the present moment with your full attention. The work will just flow from there. So as we wrap this up, what is the real secret here? It's not about learning some new productivity hack or buying a fancy planner. It's so much simpler than that. Your brain is already a supercomputer. You've just been loading it with malware, these bad habits that slow it down. Your job is just to start removing that malware. So here it is, your malware removal kit. The 4 key takeaways from our whole explainer. Number 1, stop negotiating with distractions. Number 2, stop being reactively available. Number 3, stop running away from boredom and discomfort. And number 4, stop obsessing over the finish line and focus on the process instead. Just stop doing these 4 things, and what you're left with is the naturally powerful, focused brain you've had all along. So I'll leave you with one final question. Which piece of malware are you going to remove first? And don't try to do all 4 at once. Just pick one. In fact, maybe it's the one that felt the most uncomfortable when I mentioned it, the one that made you think, oof, I don't know if I can do that. That's probably where your biggest growth is hiding. Pick one, try it today, and prove to yourself that you can take back control of your attention.